My father was on hospice, and when he went on to hospice, it was a tough time in our life, and we would not have made it through that experience without our hospice nurse. So as I am putting together strategy and plans, I think about what's important to nurses. I think about what's important to our patients. And so I try to make sure that's incorporated in every strategy that's created.
So what does it really take for your business to attract world-class talent today? I'm Dave Travers, president of ZipRecruiter, and on Talent All-Stars, we shine a light on the people and the day-to-day processes behind recruitment and retention at some of the world's most influential businesses. Today's Talent All-Star works in the healthcare industry where the stakes are high when it comes to getting the right staff. Lashonda Bighaus is the VP of Talent Acquisition at AccentCare, which specializes in hospice, personal, and home care. AccentCare employs about 30,000 people, and Lashonda leads a team of 50 recruiters. She joins us now from her home state of Texas. Lashonda, welcome to Talent All-Stars.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So excited to have you. So I know that, your journey into talent acquisition and into healthcare started on the staffing side of things. Talk about what the transition is like being the external service provider and then moving in-house and being the one on the line to really deliver results internally.
Yeah, I think that, working in the world of a staffing agency really prepares you to move into the corporate space. You learn a lot about the client-recruiter relationship. It taught me how to build relationships, how to build trust, and to really hone in on the skill set of recruiting the appropriate candidates for specific roles. In the agency world, we recruit for so many different types of positions that we have to be knowledgeable on all of the different companies, all of the different roles. So I think starting an agency is always a good stepping stone for any recruiter to learn how to recruit. They also get the skill set of sourcing and learning how to source on multiple avenues. When I transitioned over to the hospital system from agency, I knew exactly how to source. I knew where to go to source, where to find the candidates, and all of that. So I was actually able to fill my roles very quickly, which was shocking to some of my colleagues that I was able to do that so efficiently. But being an agency prepared me for that.
So incredible experience you get from working in an agency where you learn how to source, where you see how multiple different clients work, not just one company. So those are tremendous advantages. What was different? What did you have to learn when you moved in-house, so to speak?
I think I had to learn how to slow down. In agency, you're driven by commissions and working very quickly and pleasing the clients. When you move over to the corporate space, it really becomes more about building relationships and trust. It's working closely with your internal leaders to learn about what they're looking for and then finding the right candidate. In agency, you can submit multiple candidates to try to find the right one that's going to stick, I guess you could say. But when you're in the corporate space, the leaders don't want to see 10,000 candidates. They want to see your top 3 and they want them to be good and they want you to be able to explain why you're submitting those candidates and why they're your top 3. So even though that candidate may not report to you in the corporate space, you still have to truly understand that candidate, what their skill sets are and what they'll be able to do for that leader. So there's a difference in how you submit and that relationship piece.
Absolutely. So one of the things that's notable about you is that you have been in the healthcare space for a while now, and obviously your skill set is applicable broadly, but what brought you to healthcare in particular? What drew you in?
I don't think I had one particular thing that drew me in. When I was in agency, I had a couple of healthcare clients that I worked with, but I had never recruited nurses. I was used to working in a fast-paced environment, but never in the nursing space. So honestly, I didn't know what I was getting into when I started recruiting nurses. I was fortunate enough to get a job at Baylor. My first nursing recruitment job was at Baylor, and I was put in a position to recruit for a floor that was high volume floor. So it transitioned well for me. I didn't choose healthcare. I think healthcare kind of chose me. That leader and the leader who I started working with, who hired me, I think that person was looking for someone who could work in that sort of fast-paced environment, and it just parlayed well for me.
So then as once you're in healthcare, you've had a couple of different roles. And so you referenced Baylor, but moving, from Tenet to AccentCare, one of the interesting things about working in a place like AccentCare is like a huge company with huge impact, but not necessarily a brand name that everybody's heard of right away. How do you think about how you recruit when the scale of what you're doing is huge, but when you don't walk in the first time you talk to every single candidate knowing this is Disney, this is Coca-Cola, you know exactly who we are?
Yeah. So I think it's about branding. It's important to brand. We brand in a multitude of ways. We use different social sites to brand on: Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, all the regular things that candidates know. AccentCare has also gone through a few acquisitions where, we, in some markets, specifically in Texas, we were known as Texas Home Health or something like that. And so I think when my recruiters are recruiting and looking for those candidates who don't know who we are, we talk to them about those known brands that are in the market that we may have acquired, and then they are familiar with those companies. And so we're essentially somewhat of the same company that we may have acquired, but bigger and better. And so that's how we sell it.
Got it. Great. So as you think about driving talent acquisition for a company with 30,000 people, 50 people on the recruiting team, et cetera, and think, you're now in this leadership position that so many up and coming recruiters want to be in. What advice do you give to someone who's coming up through the industry and wants to be one of those 50 that stands out to their boss? Like, if you roll the clock back on Lashonda earlier in her career, what is it that helped you stand out, and what's the advice you'd give to those who are looking to make the same upward trajectory?
Yeah, my current team, since I've been in a leadership role, I try to support them the best I can. I feel like I have an advantage because I did sit in the seat. So I know what it's like to be a recruiter, and I feel like I know what it takes to get there. I tell my team, those who are aspiring to grow, that it takes hard work and grit to get there. I feel like, they understand by seeing my growth. I have several recruiters who are on my team that I have worked with since my Baylor days. And so they've seen me grow in my role. We were peers at one point, and now I am their boss per se, but we still work somewhat as peers because they understand and they've seen me work hard to get to where I am. People who are interested in growing on my team, we give them opportunities for growth, such as stretch assignments, where they can take on additional duties that will give them insight into leadership and understanding, how to communicate with executive leaders, how to prepare a report, how to work with multiple vendors. We give them the opportunity to head up different projects so that they have the leadership experience in order to do so. Those recruiters who really dive into it and take hold of it are the ones that typically become successful.
I love this. So stretch assignments is such a powerful rubric for both somebody who's got ambition in their career and somebody who's now managing a big team, because I think the intuition when you're young sometimes is, I'm going to keep my head down, do exactly what the job description says, exactly what's asked of me, and then, somebody will promote me. And what is not always intuitive is to be on the lookout for something that isn't exactly, what my core job description is, and isn't exactly what the last two people who got promoted did, but it's an opportunity that's out there right now. And simultaneously, for managers, thinking about, I don't have to wait or look for somebody externally to take on a task that they've done 3 times before. I can take a bet on someone. And so within every single organization, there's this marketplace of stretch opportunities, and both sides sometimes don't always know to think about it that way. So how did you come to that insight that stretch opportunities is a powerful tool?
When I was a recruiter, I was always given stretch assignments. I didn't know they were stretch assignments per se until after the fact. I was like, oh, okay. So as I moved into a leadership role, I was ready. And I thought about, it brought me back to all of the things that I did that was the stretch. And I was able to utilize that in the leadership role. So it wasn't necessarily back when I was coming up in my role, the thought of stretch. I don't know 15 years ago that we were saying stretch, but it truly was, picking up special projects. We were centralizing recruiting and picking up projects to help centralize the function. That helped transition into a leadership role.
So I think some people don't even know what it's like to be asked to do. Like they may not even recognize it when they're being given a stretch opportunity. Like if I'm the up and comer who's super excited, Lashonda, give me an example of a stretch opportunity and so I can think about how I should respond.
So if I was going to give someone a stretch assignment, it would be something around maybe taking a strategy for a specific role and executing a strategy. So whether that is hosting an event, posting on social media, sourcing, but creating a plan to fill those hard to fill roles. There's also things, reporting that we do, like just from my perspective on my current team, there's a lot of different things that we do for reporting. So teaching them how to do report outs every week and saying, okay, create me a report that shows time to fill, that shows where candidates are and what their current statuses are, where they are in the process. Things like that they wouldn't normally do on a regular basis. We may ask them for what we call a talent acquisition report. It's a TAP report that shows their active requisitions that they're working on. But we, in a stretch assignment, they're going to take a step further, and it's going to be something that we could utilize to present to our executive leadership team of where candidates are in the process, our time to fill. It's going to have some of our KPIs in it that they're going to be looking at. I think now some of the recruiters recognize when they're being asked to do stretch assignments, and they don't mind it because they're looking for something different in their role than the everyday sourcing, phone screens, all of that. So they're looking for something else that takes their role a step further.
That is so powerful. And I think a lot of people don't understand that you can raise your hand even if you haven't been offered a specific stretch assignment. There are very few bosses in the world who are going to be upset when someone says, by the way, at the end of this one-on-one, I just want to let you know if there's ever a stretch assignment where you need something or there's a hard problem to solve, I just want you to know I'm standing by and I'm your person. There are zero bosses who dislike that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So one of the things about AccentCare is the mission is such a powerful part of your organization, is such a powerful part of the value proposition. How did you think about connecting to the mission yourself, and how does that impact how you now go out and design a team to recruit other people where the mission of helping people is so core to what you do?
Well, for me, I generally care about people, and, coming into the home care space, I came into the home care space for personal reasons. The timing of my life and things that were happening in my life, my father was on hospice, and when he went on to hospice, it was a tough time in our life, and we would not have made it through that experience without our hospice nurse. It was my first experience, and it was a wonderful experience. No matter how hard it was a good experience. And so once I went through that, coming back to work and thinking about what did I want to do to further my career, to make an impact on patient care, I was very interested in that hospice space. Fortunately for me, an opportunity came around for me to, interview with AccentCare. And the leader that I interviewed with at the time was very passionate as well about hospice. He was a Vietnam vet. My dad was a Vietnam vet. So we had a lot to talk about, even during the interview process. And so from there, I was able to come into this position with a true passion to make sure that I am focused on AccentCare's mission and values, that I could make an impact in recruiting. And so as I am putting together strategy and plans, I think about what's important to nurses. I think about what's important to our patients. And so I try to make sure that's incorporated in every strategy that's created.
I love that. So that is, first of all, amazing story about your dad and your connection to the mission. And I think so many people have gone through that experience with a loved one, and the impact that having somebody who's been through this process before who can help is so powerful. And then throughout life, just thinking, and throughout careers, thinking about finding a place where you're going to work all day, where you're really connected to what the end outcome is. And it's more than, of course, it's a job. Of course, you have job expectations, but you can connect to it beyond that. Is so powerful in your own motivation, in how you can motivate your team, and how you can show people how to connect with candidates, because so many candidates will be able to connect with that. That's really powerful and impressive. So I know that, and you referenced, nurses and hospice as two parts already, but there are so many different types of roles you're responsible for recruiting. Do you find that developing talent on your recruiting team, where you have to match people to the types of roles and their different skills, or do you find that rotating people around and having a diversity of different roles at any given time is the right way to manage a team?
I think that each recruiter has a strong skill set, and I think you have to know your recruiter and know what your recruiter is strong at. Some recruiters are interested in moving around and knowing every aspect of the function so that maybe they can grow in their role. They want to know home health. They want to know hospice. They want to know personal care services, how to recruit for executive leadership. There are some recruiters who can move around and do that. Those are very strong recruiters. There are recruiters who are equally strong that just recruit nurses, and that's their specialty. They know how to connect with nurses. They know how to speak with them. They know how to foster that community. They just have that preference. For me personally, I would love to see recruiters rotate around and fully understand all the functions of the business. But realistically, that doesn't necessarily happen. You have to be able to identify recruiters on your team that have those skill sets and place them where they belong.
Okay, so at the end of every episode, we do what we call the rapid fire here. So what I'd love for you to do is imagine that we're now, in the elevator at AccentCare HQ, and the CEO or the CHRO walks in the elevator and says, "Oh, hey, Lashonda," and you have only that 60-second elevator ride to answer. So here we go. So Lashonda, I've always been thinking as an executive at this company, how should I measure the TA team? How should I evaluate how the TA team is doing?
I would say you should measure us on our time to fill and the quality of candidates.
I love it. Speed and quality. Never can go wrong there. Okay, Lashonda, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing this year, and how as an executive, how can I help you with that challenge?
The biggest challenge I think we're facing, as it with any other healthcare organization, is a shortage of nurses. There's a shortage of qualified nurses out there, and as an executive, I need continued support on fostering community, promoting AccentCare as an organization who cares about their patients, who cares about their nurses, and showing that we are an organization that cares about the community.
That is so powerful, because what you just did is you're showing that as a TA leader, you're not just recruiting out and down, you're recruiting up. Like you just struck up a conversation with me, executive. I'm recruiting you onto the TA team now. So whether you ask the question like that or not, you could really help. Lashonda Bighaus, VP of Talent Acquisition at AccentCare. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. And it's very clear why you're a talent all-star.
Thank you for having me.
That's Lashonda Bighaus. She's the VP of Talent Acquisition at AccentCare. We'll put her LinkedIn profile in the notes below. And just a reminder, we're an audio podcast also. So if you want to listen on the go, just search Talent All-Stars in your favorite podcast app and tap follow. And if you have feedback for us or ideas for future episodes, send us an email at talentallstars@ziprecruiter.com. I'm Dave Travers. Thanks for listening to Talent All-Stars, and we'll see you right back here next time.